Hello, guys.
Hey,
Good
everybody.
morning. Happy Monday. We are back and going live. I missed this. So, our topic of conversation right now is why having an SOP or the so called standard operating procedure very important in your business. We're going to give
Incredible.
you 5 good reasons why you need to have or build your SOP or standard operating procedure. Why don't you go on the first one, babe?
All right. The first one is because it can help you to create some structure in your business.
Mhm.
Even if you are a solopreneur, if it's just you, having things systematized, having a procedure typed out or written out can help you to be more consistent in what you do in your business. And that's the whole key. Before you can really leverage what you do and what you know, you have to become consistent with it. And I've talked to people in the past that have said, well, if I have a policy or a procedure down, then all of our responses become robotic or become like fixed. It sounds like it's just, like it's not being special for our clients or that everybody gets treated the same, which I understand that. And you can deviate in small amounts in your SOPs. It doesn't mean that you have to read it like a script, like you'll read line A and then read line B and then read line
Yeah.
C, especially in something like a script when you're working with a sales prospect or working with a new client. But where you need to have step-by-step things is the behind the scenes stuff with your clients, the
Yeah.
behind the scene things for your own business, that so that if this happens, then you know that you do this and this in order to complete that task or to fix that error or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that if you don't have SOPs, if you don't have some systems in place, that when you do go to hire your first employee or whether it's a physical employee or virtual employee, start building your team. If you don't have these systems in place, then you're going to have to do them after you've hired somebody, and that just makes it harder and harder to do. And
Yeah.
ask us how we know, because we didn't start documenting stuff until we started hiring our team.
Yeah.
And it makes for the potential for a lot of confusion. It can make for the potential for errors and mistakes that should never happen.
Mhm.
And you can't get upset at an employee if they make a mistake when you haven't shown them what to do.
Yeah.
And it really helps you, even if you're a solopreneur, helps you to keep things straight. You don't have to keep everything in your head. You don't have to memorize everything. And there might be
Actually,
some, yeah,
it's especially if you're a solopreneur, you would like to build the structure. When you
yeah,
have a business, you need to have that structure. You need to build the foundation first for
right,
you to grow. And if your goal is, I'm, having a business that's successful and growing, and in the beginning, you're maybe a solopreneur and doing everything on your own. But of course, your end goal is to make it big and have a team behind you so that you
right.
can focus on your best skill or your strongest skill. Then you have to build your foundation first. And that is the most important thing that you have to consider, that you have to work on. In the very first thing is, build a structure. And that is creating your SOP, or your standard operating procedure, or your step by step, or let's say in big companies, they have this handbook. So it's kind of like creating your own handbook as well for your own business. And that is number one. Number two is, your team will not go around and guess what they need to do, what they need to work on.
Right.
So if you have, let's say, hired the first virtual assistant or hired your first project manager, you don't want to keep repeating yourself and
Mhm.
saying, okay, here's what we're gonna do here, and this is how you're gonna do it. If you have an SOP, a process in place, your step-by-step instruction, then all you have to do is direct your VA or your project manager to that specific instruction, whether it's in a Word document, whether it's in a form of what is that you call sites, Google Sites,
Yeah.
Whatever form you have built your SOP, whether it's a project management tool that you have your checklist, you have to have that so that you don't have to repeat yourself over and over again.
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly.
we implemented this early on, when we were when we started our business. In the beginning, it was just the two of us, and when we built Great Work Online, I'm like, okay, I need a project manager, but how am I gonna delegate the task fast
Yeah.
if I don't have that instruction written out already? So
Yeah.
that
And
is your second step,
Yeah, and it's a
right?
work in progress for us. It's
Yes.
as we bring in new clients, we develop new SOPs in order to serve the needs
You
and what our
tweak as
scope
you
of work is with
progress.
our clients. Yeah,
Yeah.
we take on new tasks that we've never done with a client before. First thing we do is we go through and we write out an SOP for how we're going to do this.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I've got another one, but I'm going to wait until we get a little further down because it fits better with one of our other points.
Yeah. Okay, which is number three.
Uh,
Helps you reduce errors.
right.
Yeah, you mentioned in the beginning about you prevent creating errors because you already have that step by step procedure.
Right.
And when you did that in the beginning, you already made some mistakes, you
Mhm.
tweak, you learn from that mistake, and then you write, okay, this is how it works. This is how you're going to do it so that you're going to eliminate the errors that you've made in the past.
Yep.
Then once you pass that on to somebody, you know that it is now a perfect procedure. And of
Exactly.
course, as you make progress, as you move along, you will encounter some other things that you would want to tweak your process.
Yep.
But again, it really helps because the back and forth is eliminated, the errors is eliminated. So the growth will be much quicker.
Yeah. And with
Yeah.
along the whole error thing is when you write an SOP, it's really important that you test it so that
Yes.
it's entrepreneurs are we've got everything in our head. We know what we mean. We know what we want to say, but we put it down in paper. And if we don't have somebody else check that over to make sure that it makes sense to them,
Yeah.
then you really haven't gotten the value that you should out of having an SOP. So it's important that once you write an SOP, that you have somebody else on your team, somebody in your company or an advisor or somebody read it to make sure that it makes sense to them.
Right.
And the perfect SOP, and I joke about this all the time, it's with our managers, I'm like, we need to have everything systematized so that if if you get run over by a bus, I can pick
Yeah.
up the SOP and I can fill in for a day and do what needs to get done because it's all systematized and it's step A, step B, step C.
Hmm.
But I didn't have a chance, if those weren't reviewed before they got finalized, there could be things in there that somebody with greater knowledge or more experience takes for granted and doesn't list the minor details.
Yeah.
So it's really important that somebody else evaluates it and reviews it so that you can really reduce the errors even within your SOP.
Yeah, and the key thing there is if you cannot follow the instruction that you created, then I doubt somebody else can follow that too. So
Exactly.
make sure that you can follow the instructions that you created. Make sure that it is clear. What I asked the team to do is, if well, not if I told them that it's a lot easier to understand if they can have a screenshot as well, aside from step one, go here, all in text. It will also help if they can screenshot and put some arrows on where to click on, something like that. It is very important because let's say our project manager is, cannot report for work. Let's say, there is no power or something happened or sick or anything like that. The
Mhm.
worst thing that can happen is for me to jump in and do the work. So if there is, so same thing with you. If, worst case scenario, the rest of the team cannot work and it's only you that needs to get that specific task done for your client, you can easily jump in, take over, and follow the your SOP, and you should be able to follow it. So
Right.
that is the magic there of creating an SOP or having a standard operating procedure. Now, for number 4, it helps you evaluate your team members' performance.
This is
Yeah,
great.
so go ahead.
I'll take this one.
Sure.
I'm sure that all of us as business owners, as bosses, as leaders, you need to make sure that you're evaluating your people that are reporting. You need to be evaluating their progress and the work that they do on a regular basis. And having SOPs can be a great tool for doing that because you have a baseline on which to measure their performance on. And this doesn't mean that SOPs are perfect. They have to be constantly looked at and reevaluated and updated. But if you don't have anything in writing for the employee to go from, how are they ever going to know what is truly expected from them? A job description doesn't cut it. But having SOPs to follow, if they're not following the SOPs and you've coached them and corrected them on that, and they're still not correctly following the SOPs, then you've got something that you can use to evaluate their performance, that you can have another coaching conversation. Or if it leads to a termination or a disciplinary type of situation, at least you've got everything documented. And it helps the employee as well because they've got something to fall back on. They don't always have to be sending you an instant message or picking up the phone or coming to your office to ask you, I've got this situation, what do I do with it? Or you've given me this task, how do you want me to do it? I'm stuck. You can always refer them back to that document that you've got and use that as a starting point for where they're going to work from.
Yeah, exactly. Very well said, babe. The last one is it makes it easy to replicate the work processes in your organization. Like what I mentioned earlier, you don't have to repeat yourself again and again every time you hire somebody to do the work.
Right.
And, if you really want to scale, you want to have that SOP or your standard operating procedure in place already so that you are ready to grow.
Right.
It is really a foundation. I don't know how to stress this enough, but it is very important if you are looking at, growing fast, then you need to invest time in creating each of your tasks an SOP, a step-by-step procedure. It's easy to refer to when you hire somebody to replace the person who's working on that specific project. It's easy for them to follow. Or like what I said earlier, case scenario is that somebody else needs to take over that task. Then you don't have to be there and repeat it yourself. You just have to direct them to that Word document or to that standard operating procedure, that step-by-step instruction, and they're ready to go. They can take over the task. Yeah.
And you're never going to be able to have policy written around every possible scenario or every contingency, but at least you can help to reduce a lot of the time where the questions are going to,
Right.
as a small business leader, those questions are going to come to you. And
Right.
if you can mitigate, half or 2/3 or 99% of all the questions with a well-documented procedure, it's going to save you a lot of time as well in
Right.
being interrupted in your work and having to answer all these repetitive or maybe really simple questions, but your outsourced person or your staff member, your employee doesn't want to make mistakes and they're going to want to confirm things with you. So having the document just makes so much less work over the long run. It's a lot of work up front, no question about that. It's a lot of work, but the work you do today will help you for years to come. And I'm going to throw in my favorite new quote, and I don't even remember where I heard it from anymore because I've been using it so much. It's never do something once that you can't do 1,000 times.
Right.
And that's where policies really come in. Like, don't do something if it needs to get done again at some point in the future. Document it so that you don't have to do it over and over and over again. You can make it more simple.
Exactly. If I may share a story before we wrap this up.
Hmm.
I remember before we onboarded the client that we had, she's now with us for about three months. I think
Mm-hmm.
she wanted us to take over the projects because her previous project manager is leaving, and I'm like, and she already has, something, there are so many projects going on, everything is on the go, but she's like, I don't know if we have an instruction for this, because I kept asking her question during our meeting, and I'm like, okay, you want us to take over this task, but is there already an instruction that we can, I can pass this on to your new project manager? And she's like, wait a minute, I have to ask. So instead of us assuming the project as soon as possible, we waited for about 2 weeks,
Yeah.
because she needed to make sure that before the previous project manager leaves, she's got everything
Already got the
documented.
insurance. Yeah.
So she's like, cramming, and she's like, oh no, my project manager is going to leave now, and we haven't documented everything yet. And she doesn't know how to do all of those things. So
Right.
that is one lesson, I guess, for those who are listening to us right now. If you are doing your business on your own, you are a solopreneur, eventually you will grow. And eventually you will not be able to do everything on your own. So while you're doing it on your own, make sure that you are also documenting the projects or the tasks that you are working on, so that by the time that you are ready to hire your very first VA or your very first project manager, all you have to do is, this is the SOP. This is how you do stuff. And then get back to me if you have any question. I mean,
Exactly.
you can only do it once you onboard that first team member of yours. Walk them through the documents that you created. And I'm telling you, it will save you so much time. And now you are ready to focus on your number one strength,
Yep.
which is creating content, doing the marketing, and having that face to face time with your client.
Yes.
So I guess that's it for today. I hope you guys got some value out of it. If you do, then please leave us a comment down below. And if you want us to discuss or talk about some things that you want us to help you with in building your team and doing your marketing, doing your helping you survive this crazy thing called being an entrepreneur, please feel free to send us a comment, and we will try our best to help you answer those questions and discuss that, and just share with you what we've learned when we started Rework Online. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys, and we will catch
Thanks.
you again next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.